So today's facilitator video is two things I want to teach. Okay, so one is personal space, private space, and public space. So here you are as a leader. You're a leader and facilitator, and you have your private space. This is you and what's private to you. You have your personal space here, what you're happy to share in your personal space, what is private for you. So I have some private information that I feel comfortable with sharing, my personal stuff. And then you have the public space. So you go out into the world and you share your private stuff to the public. Yep, so I'll share stuff with you people within the container about my personal space, yep, and what's going on in my private life. So, for example, at the moment, past few months, 3-4 months ago, I was really struggling with my mental health, and I had to take some response in addressing that, and I needed to step back from my public space, my public duties, to look after my personal space. And that's a challenge because the public often have an opinion about how my personal life is run. And what's happening in my personal life is often private. So what happens in my private life with me and my girlfriend Tia, that is personal between us and private. And then I choose to share that with certain people. Yeah, I tend to make that stuff public sometimes. And then I need to be aware of how my private stuff impacts my relationship with Tia. So what's private between me and Tia, is personal between the two of us. And we need to keep that amongst ourselves for our relationship. Okay, so that's the first thing I want to draw a line in, because when we're facilitating, and whether we like it or not, our personal stories and our private stories impact the container. So, for example, if I struggle with mental health and depression, and I talk about that sort of stuff in my role as a recovery coach, people might think that I don't know what I'm talking about because I struggle with being a human as well. And I need to be aware of the impact my story might have on other people. And I need to discern, I need to be wise as when to share my personal and private stuff and when to contain it. And also to be aware of when my personal stuff impacts other people. So, for example, when I share about how my kids were taken away and put in foster care, that can impact my children. Okay. So the second part of the story is I want to talk about organizations and where we are. Organizations go out, and here you get pioneers. Yep, so Bruno is at a space of pioneering, starting a school in Uganda and going off, and pioneers discover something, they get excited, they move on, they discover something else, and they just keep moving. So that's how pioneers work. Entrepreneurs, they'll try something, and then they find something, and then they go off and they go from entrepreneurship into capitalism, and they create what's called a corporate structure here. So they create the corporation. So the corporation becomes a separate entity to the entrepreneur. And what will happen is a corporate structure will go and put into place, and you'll get shareholders. Yep, and we have the world of capitalism, and that's about making the money. The academics then come along, and they say how this was done. So they then go off and teach. Yep, the world of how to create this sort of thing. And then once the academics have done the work, the bureaucrats come along and put in the policies, procedures, process, the government type of recommendations. And often what happens then is the red tape destroys the heart of what happened in the beginning. So we must be cautious of this, and we want to take a lens where we're looking at this from this perspective here. So we're looking at that. So if we look at our container that's happening with the facilitators, all you guys are coming along and pioneering. And some of you are working within organizations. Yep, most of you working in LEROs, lived experience recovery organizations, providing a service for government, yep, but still having a lot of entrepreneurial spirit and pioneering spirit. Yeah, the private medical industry sits in this corporate space here, and then you can get pharmaceutical companies and you can get all sorts of challenges there in that sort of environment. Okay, now what I want us to start to be aware of is in the bureaucracy side, we've created ISO compliant, ISO 17024 compliance in the way that we deliver our training. So we've got the bureaucracy in place for our training and our content, which satisfies the academics, which would basically mean that our training adds corporate value and understanding, and that people can get a return on the investment. And so this is what I want to kind of get across to us today. And so what's great about Bruno is he's taken his heart and his passion with a little bit of money that's been donated, and he is going out and creating a school and an environment. And Rabson's doing this as well, where we're kind of training people, educating people that they can go out into the world of business. Yeah, and to generate sustainability, which hopefully will be good for everyone. And hopefully that aligns with government policy and doing good in the world. So, that's today's lesson. And to always be conscious of our private, personal and public life. And when we get into crisis, so when I get into crisis as a leader with my mental health and my enthusiasm with everything, I need to be aware of how my private behavior might be impacting my personal relationships and how that might be impacting the roles that I have in the outside world. So I've surrounded myself with people that I trust, that love me, care for me, and will protect the organization. And that's how the clinic has survived for 20 years, with our ups and downs. And that's really the culture that we've created here. So I do hope this has helped. It's not easy out there. And most of all, just have lots of compassion, lots of love, and lots of care for people and all the various roles. So I'll go tomorrow, I'll talk about different roles, I think. Okay, thanks. I know today was a long one. I hope it makes sense. Take care, all you wonderful facilitators. End of the first week. Well done.